Well, we are here, live and in color.
Yes, yes, yes.
Hello, everybody. Sandra, you're the early bird, and Connie's right here with us. Glad you two
Yeah.
made it. Glad you two made it. We changed the time, so I was wondering if anybody's going to show up. But I'm glad you guys got the notification and came on in.
Hmm.
We're here again, me and Pastor Norman and my sidekick, Pastor Sawyer. We're here to continue talking about the atmosphere of change, living in the atmosphere of change. Hey,
Hmm.
Jory. Hey, Sinette. I was thinking about you. Been missing you. I've been missing you, sweetheart. She's all the way from Denmark. I've been
Wow.
missing you, Sinette. And I'm glad you're here. And Majari, glad you're here, sweetheart. Hadn't seen you with us in a while. But we're here, Pastor Norman and I, and my honey bun right here.
What's
And
up? What's up? What's up, everybody?
Okay.
hope you guys have been doing well. And we have so far, haven't we, Norm?
We have.
Yeah. Last time we talked, we oh gosh, we talked about so much. And again, I wanted to say that these are really our conversations about how we're navigating through all of these different changes that we're experiencing, not only from the pandemic, but from our careers as pastors. We're going through changes with that, and all of those different kinds of things. And so, doing a lot of reflecting, and opening ourselves up to all kinds of possibilities. And that's been really something that we've talked about,
Hmm.
and the adjustments that we've
Yes.
had to make. Yeah, a lot of the adjustments. I think last time we talked, we were talking about the global shift that we're noticing. Uh,
Right. The
the
paradigm shift. Yep.
Yeah, that paradigm shift that's taking place, and it is really touching the religious world, because we're involved with that. We're noticing that more than anything. It's touching that church world that we're familiar with, drastically.
Hmm.
Many I talked to our church bookkeeper today, who has her own consulting business uh, with other churches, church tax and clergy laws. That's what she does for a living. And she mentioned that I asked her, a lot of the churches opening up, because she does her consulting business with a lot of them. And she said that they open up, but then they shut back down.
Exactly. Same here.
And yeah, and then there are those who, during the pandemic, they started to do online sessions like we're doing. And when they opened back up, they stopped. And
Hmm.
she said those were the ones who were really kind of really traditional, and holding on to the old traditions of the brick and mortar more
Hmm.
so. And so they're going to lose ground. She said, from her observation, that some churches are not going to survive this crisis.
Exactly. Exactly.
Mm-hmm,
And,
mm-hmm,
and it's been the same, matter of fact, discussion that I had yesterday. Um, Same thing, churches, and we did it a couple of months ago. We opened
mm-hmm,
back up. We was open for about 7 weeks. Again, practicing the proper protocols, making sure everybody is
mm-hmm.
safe, wearing masks, social distancing, had certain sanitation stations and so forth. And what what happened was, just Gwen herself was just calling some of the members and checking up on them, seeing how they were doing, only to discover that many of them was on quarantine. And when I mean many, I do mean many.
Wow.
Just here recently, some more individuals that we have found out that are actually on quarantine, have contracted the virus, and so on. So because of that, I made the decision to go ahead and shut back down. Again, the virtual experience has been awesome. Um, it has increased our area of influence as well.
Mm-hmm,
But
mm-hmm.
I've been wrestling with the idea again, the possibility, again, because of the traditional people who desire to come back to brick and mortar. And
Yeah.
again, as you were saying earlier, as leaders, we are like dealing with it, trying to alter, see what direction we need to go and so forth. Um, but of course, I have not decided that we're actually going to do it because we got
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
keep being informed of what's going on, and it's amazing because day before yesterday, as right before we have get on our prayer line at 6 o'clock in the mornings, I was watching CNN, and one of the physicians made a statement that it was such an embarrassment that when we have these vaccines and so forth, that all of these young people, children now, and I think he mentioned over about
Mhm.
700 young people have passed away from this virus, and he feels as though
Yeah.
that is a literal embarrassment to our
Okay.
nation. So again, there is change, and we have
Yeah.
to remember change is inevitable. It's going to happen. You cannot stop it, but it's
Yes.
what we do in the midst of change. Are we going to embrace it like I have, and I shared that last week, how and all through our impromptu sessions, that this has been an amazing time for me.
Mm-hmm.
Time
Mm-hmm.
yesterday and day before, I think I was on cloud nine. Don't even really understand why, but just feeling so amazingly awesome. And so, as I was doing the broadcast for last night, I guess a lot of people could see how joyful I was.
Mm.
But it's because I've embraced the change. And when we embrace, in essence, we make it work for us. We take
Mhm.
advantage of it, and that's what I did. Instead of complaining and murmuring and allowing myself to be weighted down with so many worries and being stressed out, I'm just embracing the change.
Yeah, and it the suffering I think comes when we try to hold on to what we've already had and keeping that and trying to make it permanent, and it's not. One thing I have learned in this life, there is nothing permanent.
Exactly.
It's absolutely nothing permanent. And I think we talked a little bit last week about how that nowadays the younger generation, and I think some of us who are the older generation are thinking the same thing, but particularly the younger generation are not wanting the institutional church that has a lot of fear and guilt based teachings.
Exactly.
And of course we, the older ones of us who look at them, we think, well, they need more structure, and they do, but at the same time they're tired of being the all of the judgments and opinions and doctrines, and they really want to connect with that mystical side of God, and not all of the legalism that we've pushed off on them. And so for us, the two of us, we really dropped the legalism. And when we noticed that when we drop that legalism, you do this and you don't do that, and we stop being the police for the Holy Spirit,
Exactly.
that's when
Exactly.
a lot of people kind of dwindle away or kind of walked away. It started an exodus in our congregation because many of them thought, well, we were compromising, and
Exactly.
we're not compromising. We're just dropping and suspending the judgments because we realize God is not sending out lightning bolts.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
and and so to get that across to people who've been living in legalism is really, really difficult. Uh,
Mhm.
and I remember you saying one thing. You said once you get the feathers out the pillow, you can't put them back.
Oh yeah, that's a difficult task there. That's a
Hmm.
difficult
Hmm.
task. Yes. And
Yeah.
and that's the same. And I've also discovered with the young people, they're true schools of thoughts with the young people as well, which is kind of surprising to me because you have that young group again, like you said, that really they want more freedom and not feel like they're being forced or manipulated or controlled and so forth. So there are many of them that will gravitate more to the virtual experience of
Yes.
ministry versus going to brick and mortar. But then I have another group of young people that actually want to be at the brick and mortar. But I do
Probably, yeah,
know
probably because of the excitement of the music
exactly that's
and
what I'm gonna
yeah,
say.
those things. Yes.
Yep, that's what I was gonna say. They're so used to the emotional side,
Mm-hmm.
being hyped
Mm-hmm.
up. and so forth. So I saw that's what kind of amazed me. And because I know them and I know the character of each individual, like I said, there are some that really, like you said, want to understand the mystical side of God and really just understanding more about him. Because the
Yes.
truth of the
Yes.
matter, the emotional services that we had, and again, we're not judging, we're not condemning. Like I shared last night, I'm still a praiser. Amen. I have my time when I get excited and so forth. But at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself this question: in the midst of all of that, what have you discovered about him and yourself?
Yes. Yes.
What have you discovered? And
Yeah,
there's been a discovery.
and you told me something yesterday in a conversation we were having about what you learned about what worship is or what devotion is. Something you were saying about that. Can you go back through that again?
Yes. I again, I study a lot of different things, and so I was studying one of my a book that I have dealing with systematic theology, and in it, the writer was sharing concerning that our spiritual development and progress is based off our concept of God. And so, in the midst
Yes.
of that, he
Yes.
was saying that
Yes.
whatever we worship, whatever we admire the most, whether it be a entertainer, an athlete, whatever we admire first, we tend to begin to emulate. That's
Mm-hmm.
basically
Mm-hmm.
dealing with Roma. We begin
Mm-hmm.
to emulate, and then all of a sudden, we are begin to take on their pattern and take on their characteristics. And so,
Yeah.
when you
Yeah.
think about that, when the Bible talks about, and we could go there also in St. John chapter 4, and I'll read it to
Okay.
explain it even further. St. John chapter 4, so they can get an understanding.
Well, while you're looking for that, can I give a couple of comments here that are
Yes.
Sinette brought in? Sinette says it's also talking about coming on live with us. It's a chance to open up and do the different action than thoughts of fear and limitations, building a third model just for the fun of it. I think she's talking about this paradigm shift and reflecting as to where we go from here. Yes, that's
Mhm.
very good, especially about building a third model. And then she also says this, it's like a game of risk where people do the fighting with each other and you just doing your thing with love and that grows. And then suddenly people stop up and say, hey, let us look at that. That sounds fun. I'm
Mhm.
not real sure what she said, but I think I got
Yeah, I
the
think I understand what she's saying as well. Um,
yeah, yeah.
because
She's
when change happen, you have people that have a hard time adjusting to it. So because
mhm.
of the two school of thoughts, they're in opposition with one another. And
Yes,
so, of
yes.
course, when everyone begins to lean more on love and understanding, then all of a
Mhm, mhm,
sudden
mhm.
they notice that if they would just embrace the change and go along with it and stop
Yeah,
so more
yeah.
arguing and the bickering, then you would experience the fun or the excitement of the new thing that's coming in.
Good, good. You interpreted her Denmark language. Alicia says that they're just tired of traditions.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
you know, I can understand that in Alicia, there are some traditions that we want to hold on to because they gave us some sense of permanence and assurance, but then there are others that they're really just bogging us down. Now I wanted you to go ahead and read your scripture. I didn't want to stop you from that.
Well, even with her talk about traditions, I think more the word that should be really mentioned there or highlighted is what you said earlier, being legalistic, because
Mhm,
there are
mhm.
certain traditions that are actually healthy for us, but
Yes,
I
yes,
think they're tired of the religious rituals. And
yes.
that's what Jesus was making reference to when he said to the Pharisees, "Your traditions have made God's word of none effect." He
Mhm,
was talking about
mhm.
their rituals because they were very legalistic.
Yes, yes.
But
And
going back to go ahead.
and when you're legalistic, you tend to magnify and put the focus on the institution. And
Hmm.
I remember for years we tried our best to make the institution perfect. We
Hmm.
had all these protocols and rules and regulations and things they had to live up to and things that they should or should not do. And all of it was it was very good in the sense that it provided a structure for all of this freedom we were experiencing spiritually, but
Yeah,
at the same time it was stifling our evolution
exactly.
and their evolution because we were afraid of losing control.
Exactly. And see, another thing, when being legalistic, it makes us even more sin conscious as well.
Yeah.
If we look at the pattern and the behavior of the Pharisees, which was their
Yes.
religious sect that Jesus had constant confrontation with, that's their own whole focus was sin. Since it
Yeah.
said, especially when they set up the woman that they caught in adultery, you see what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And they
Mm-hmm.
brought her to Jesus saying, okay, the laws of Moses said that she ought to be stoned and
Yeah.
so forth. But when Jesus turned the whole thing back on them and said, okay, ye without sin,
Yeah.
their
Yeah.
own focus now, ye without sin cast the first stone. So their own laws got them, in trouble. And
Yeah,
so,
and and they even passed around the who's this woman married to? She had a husband, he died, and she married somebody else, and he had to point out, okay, on that side, there's no giving of marriage, and no giving of marriage. It's not like the earth plane
exactly.
or the earth planet.
Exactly. And it's funny because I've been studying as well as I'm watching different shows that I get so much revelation and insight. I'm looking at multiverses and different dimensions and so for parallel universe. You can have the same individual on both sides, but there's a different outcome. It was
Mhm.
funny because I've been watching this new show that came on. I think it's called Average Joe, and he's left in a situation. He's graduating from college, and he's left in a situation where he has three decisions to make. He can
Uh-huh.
decide to become the musician, the rock star that he wants to be, uh,
Uh-huh.
or he can go and be with his best friend, this young lady who's been his best friend in college all these years. She was inviting him to come to a celebration of them graduating from college with her parents, and then he met a new young lady at the graduation, and he kind of digged her, whatever. She was inviting him to go out with her and stuff. So the concept and the content of the whole show is it's revealing if he had made this decision, this would be what happened. If he had made
Mhm.
this decision,
Mhm.
and it's showing all three different parallels at the same time. And
Yes,
so I was like,
yes.
oh my God, this is amazing.
And that is how it actually is. We
Yes.
and I think for myself, I won't say all of us, but for a lot of us pastors, we have had this idea that every person has one purpose in this earth, and they have one the will of God, the one path that they have to go down, and this is what God's will is. And so this is where this idea that I'm out of the will of God, that must be why all this stuff is happening to me. Bad
Hmm.
stuff is happening to me. But in actuality, we're given like a prism of trajectories. When we
Yes.
come into this earth plane, there's not just one path that we need to go in. There's so many different ways that we can go based on the choices that we make.
Exactly.
And none of them are wrong. And this is the thing, but all of them have different experiences.
Exactly, and it's funny because that was one of the challenges that I was able to overcome in the midst of this pandemic. And it was funny. I became aware of it right before the pandemic had happened because we had made the statement, the announcement in January 2020 when we had our New Year's Eve service that this would be a decade of change. We said that it would be a decade of change. That was our theme, not knowing
Okay.
what was about to happen in March. But I had just shared a message is more to you than meets the eye.
Mm-hmm.
And that came out of a personal uh, uh, journey that I began to embark on because again, I started preaching when I was 16, but I was gifted and talented in so many different things in life. I was very athletic. Again, y'all know I'm into the
You
fitness
could have gone any one of
thing,
those ways. Yes.
right? But because of the religious people that
Yes.
that I
Yes.
was I was up under at that time, it was like this is your purpose, to be a preacher. And so I followed that vein. I made that choice to follow that vein. No blaming on no one, but as I grew and developed, I discovered that I don't have to be one dimensional.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can I It's so much potential that I have, and untapped abilities that I have that I'm not
yes,
utilizing. And so
yes,
now it's been in the midst of this pandemic that I'm now going after other things that I love, other passions and stuff, and it's bringing me gain.
yes. So now this you touched on something that's really, really important. And I want to read one of Sunette's comments in a moment, but what you touched on is that when we don't really know who we are and what we want, and we're really gifted, we have all this potential, like you said, could do a whole lot of different things, not real sure which direction, but just gifted to be able to do whatever. And but because we go with what is expected of us,
Exactly.
and see, that's the thing, and that's not just in religion. That's not just something that's related to church world as we've known it. It's what a lot of us have done because we didn't know ourselves, and
Exactly.
so we just went the way of what people expected of us, and so and to try to please the ones that were around us at the time.
Exactly.
We did it, and we you and I talked about that, how the beginning of our pastoral ministry. Now, we were ministers way before we started pastoring,
Hmm.
and enjoying it,
Yes.
enjoying it tremendously, and profiting from it.
Yes.
But we had several people to come to us and say, if we found a building, would you commit to coming every week and teaching us? So we
Hmm.
said, yeah, we'll do that. And it started out on a Saturday, Saturday evening, we would teach. And then all of a sudden, the people wanted to have a choir. The people wanted to have ushers. The people wanted to have certain programs. And
Hmm.
so we just kind of went along with it. And before you know it, it's
Evolved.
a church.
Yep. Evolved.
And then they said, well, we're having trouble coming on a Saturday evening. Would you come on Sunday? Well, we already had commitments to go travel. We were traveling every weekend and doing our thing. But because they wanted to do it on a Sunday, it ended up on a Sunday, and it became a church. So it was just us doing what was expected of us,
Exactly.
and following the people. And that's why I said, earlier we were talking, they put us in the pastoring. God didn't really put us in the pastoring. They put us in the pastoring.
Hello. Well, I'm gonna blame y'all two for me being in the past.
Don't blame us. Don't blame
Pouring
us.
that oil on my head unexpectedly and making that announcement. I'm
We
gonna
were, we were all asleep. Don't even blame us for that. Please don't blame us for that. I'm gonna put Sunette's comment up. We're gonna let bygones be bygones. She
yes.
said the idea of body weakness or identity is the coin, and she's talking about the flipping of the coin. Both sides look at the coin from each side, fighting each other. Looking at the love identity is another coin we look at.
That's
Yes,
good.
yes.
That's good. That's real good.
So
I love that.
you and I, the three of us, have traded the legalism for the love walk. That's
Exactly.
what's happened.
Yes, and it's funny that that even came up because on yesterday, and of course, I counsel a lot of different people and so forth, and I had a conversation with a young man who went through a very challenging, difficult time, and because of the hurt that he had experienced for what had happened, he did not want to really read his Bible anymore. He didn't really want to pray and stuff because of the hurt, the pain. And as I allowed him to talk, he broke down crying. And he felt as though God was upset with him and angry with him. And so
Mhm.
as I allowed him to share his heart, I said, "Sir, I want to say the first thing to you. God is not upset with you, nor is he angry at you, nor is he going to punish you." I said, "You got to remember, God is love." And so I was sharing with him the check
Wow.
we have been guilty of presenting to the people an angry God.
We
And
have.
that
We
is
have.
that's
We
not
have.
who he is, that he's ready to judge people and he's gonna punish you and so forth and so on. And so
Mhm.
when I shared that with him, he began to even admitted that he felt lighter after the
Yes.
conversation because what was
Yes.
lifted was the legalism. See, that's
Yes. Now,
what was
see,
presented.
now
You don't
this,
do this and that, God gonna get you.
well, see, this was what enlightenment really is. It's lightening up.
Exactly.
It's lifting the burden. It's taking the burden off of them. And remember when Jesus said, "Come unto me, all you that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." Jesus didn't promise us no miracles. He didn't promise us we would be millionaires. He didn't promise us that our bodies will be completely healed. He didn't promise us anything but rest.
Exactly.
Rest. And so that's what we have not taught, is how to
Mhm.
rest
Mhm.
in the love of God.
Exactly. And
Yeah,
we had that conversation concerning Solomon and his writings in the book of Ecclesiastes.
yeah,
And
yeah.
he tried everything to fill a void in his life. A man of wisdom that
And money. He had lots and
and money.
lots of money.
Yes, that kings and rulers from around the world was coming to just have an opportunity to sit down and just
Mhm,
listen to
mhm,
his wisdom, to have a
mhm,
conversation with him. And he
mhm,
went through this period of time where he realized no matter how many houses he built for himself, no
mhm.
matter how much wealth he had, he
How
tried
many concubines?
he tried, there you go. He tried
How many
women, he
concubines?
tried worldliness. And in all actuality, in his writing, he personally put himself through that test to see
Mhm,
what the results or the outcome would be. And
mhm,
that's when he
mhm.
came up to the conclusion vanity,
Yeah,
vanity, all is vanity.
all is vanity.
But see,
Yes.
people think that word vanity in that King James version represents pride. It's not representing pride.
Mhm,
What he is
mhm.
explaining that he's tried everything and he still had this sense of emptiness. So he
Yes.
came to the realization
Yes.
that to live life separate from God will bring you that emptiness that you feel
Yes,
inside.
yes, yes. And you know, you and I talked about it. It was the saturation of experience, life experiences. He came to the end of trying to find a better experience. And
Mhm.
he longed for the final experience, which was the collapse of him being separated from God.
Exactly.
and and
Exactly.
and that is what all of us are really longing for. We're looking for it in all the wrong places, but that's really what we're looking for. I want to put up what Keely said. Hey Keely, I'm glad you're here. She said, "I almost can't believe that this is the topic today. I need this like I need water on a hot day." Did you want to chime in on this,
Yes,
Mr.
God.
Ron? Yeah, yeah. But yes, so it's being saturated with all these different life experiences. And we think, I heard one other spiritual teacher say this, that some people have to hit rock bottom in order to see this. But then other people have to reach the height of the success and money and all of this, fame or whatever, in order to see this, because then they have this emptiness even though they got all these things going on.
Exactly. And it's funny because when you said that, I think about what had to happen to bring me to this point of
Okay.
enlightenment on for myself. I mean, of course, I've been on that journey for a while, but again, I was caught up in the busyness of ministry,
The busyness.
filling my
Mhm.
role at Bold Ministries International,
Mhm.
and again, traveling all over the place, preaching different places, doing prophetic conferences, and so forth and so on. It came to the point when everything was shut down and I had to come to a halt.
Mhm.
That now, okay, I now am becoming more of aware of things and more aware of myself of
Yeah.
things that I
Yeah.
did not know.
Yes.
I
Yes.
didn't realize I was even as a leader, I was still yet so much imprisoned within my mind because again, I was trying to fulfill expectations
An
of what
image,
was placed
and
on
and and it was a constructed image that we
exactly.
all were trying to maintain. We
Hmm.
were building it and maintaining it. And I have to admit, it was fun.
Hmm.
It was fun, and it was hard work. It
Oh
was
yeah,
fun, it was hard work, and it was stressful. But at the same time, there was this place inside of us that God knew that if we ever sat still long enough, we would come in contact with that purest essence that we are.
exactly.
And then we would want to what I call do a reset.
Yes, yes, yes,
Mhm.
yes. And that's what this pandemic did for everybody. It caused us all
Yeah,
to
yeah.
reflect and to reset our lives.
Hmm.
Yes,
Hmm. You
yes.
want to say something?
The lack of power
I'm gonna
and
pull this over for you,
the,
honey
the
bun.
lack of power and not to be able to make a decision in favor of God. Start over again, said another way. The essence is automatically us that causes hair to grow,
Mm.
kidneys to work, liver, every part of the function of the body. You'd be surprised as to what essence here on the inside of these bodies. I just left from a
Physical therapy.
physical therapy, and this therapist that's working with me is well aware of the spirit body and
The energy
the
centers.
energy, the chakras, and all of
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And he's working with me, and he wants to sit down and talk to me about the spirit body working along with the physical. And he's giving me a translation that the physical body is like spirit. It just does not have the duration attributes of eternity unless it is like Enoch or Moses, who was taken by God. Now, what happened to us, when I say taken by God, is very simple. It's not God coming to take away something, it is who you are that does this. The more you see that what's going to be changed about you is not the things around you, but the way you see things.
That's it. That's
Hmm.
Full
that's it.
surrender is fully seeing
That's good. That's
what is
good.
really taking place in the truth. True surrender is also finding out some things that you have believed and looked at and honored was not germane to the situation.
Or didn't serve your purest
They
essence.
won't serve you. The end of this thing is the end of suffering, and the end of suffering is wanting God. The suffering is wanting God to do things, get things, show you things. There should not be any reason why God needs to show you anything if you are fully aware of your true identity.
Mm.
The hinge of this thing is true identity will cover essence, and true identity will cover everything from Genesis to Revelation in any book.
So self-realization
Self-realization is the key to
is
all
the
of it.
key.
You don't need to. You might aspectively go around and say, "I need some more bread. I need some more flour. I need some more wrenching stuff." That's because you're not fully surrendered. Because there's a possibility that you don't need all as much as you think. It will come to its the crisis of change will come to the end as soon as you are ready to see
To
different.
see.
Exactly.
Home is heaven. Heaven is your essence.
Mm-hmm.
Your clothes are made out of the essence. When you go to sleep at night, essence is working better then than it ever have in your whole day adventure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Essence is natural, it's spontaneous,
Yes.
it does not study, it does not shoot from a hip because it doesn't have a hip.
Well, I must not be essence. I got plenty here.
The next person that you're going to see is you. looking like God. You look like God.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
But change is in the church and the body of Christ has been forced.
Mhm.
Let me tell you this. This is the word.
Yeah. Yeah. This is prophetic.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is God that's shutting down churches.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It is God that's shutting down the brick and mortar
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
because it has gotten out of hand to the
Mhm.
degree that it's imitating a false Christ
Mhm.
by struggle and tradition.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's good.
The tradition of the scribes and elders
Yes.
is no longer valid in this world now because the world is going through a physical change.
Yes.
The earth is shaking and trembling, and that's a sign that the inner self, like it was in the days of Noah,
Mm-hmm.
when the flood came because the earth was disturbed
Yes.
by man's action. Every heart is connected to the core of the earth,
Yes.
down to there's a movie came out, the core, where they
Yeah,
travel
it's
all the
one of
way
my
down.
favorite. One of my
Huh?
favorites. One of my favorites. I love that movie.
And a lot of people died on that ship because there were some things that they didn't build into the ship to protect it from the
Exactly.
core.
Mm-hmm.
This core essence that we're talking about now is not functional because you pray. It is not functional because you know it. It has always been there. Again,
Yes.
it is what makes your hair grow. It is what keeps the heart beating while the body is asleep. My brother could got both of his eyelids burned off, and he could sit in a chair with his eyes open, sleep.
Mm-hmm. So the
Mm-hmm.
eyes don't have to be closed in order
No,
for the body to sleep.
No.
no.
Mm-mm.
And my
I
mama would be
people
talking to
that sleep with their eyes open. Literally,
my mom would be
Yes.
talking to him.
wide open, and they're stone sleep.
Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
My mom would be talking to Joe, and he'd be sitting there, probably looking at television. He don't hear a word she said because he went to sleep with his eyes open.
Mm-hmm.
I had never heard of that until she told me.
But you made a very profound statement. It isn't so much that things will change, but how you see things is what's changing.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And it's funny because even Bishop, you mentioned something about clothing. And if people can understand that, because again, going back to a statement that your therapist said to you concerning how the body and the spirit, they're so similar. It is an actual parallel between them, but the duration of one is longer than the other.
Yes.
So, such as the spirit is eternal, but the body is temporal.
It
And
has an expiration date.
right.
Yes.
So now, if we can understand that, let's look at how why change is happening. We are grateful for what we experience, and
Mhm.
because we wouldn't be where we are right now if it wasn't for what we went through
Exactly.
back then.
That's
Everyone
right.
is on a journey. If
Mhm.
we could understand systems and again paradigms, all these things shift. Just like, for example,
Mm.
the clothes that I wear,
Mm.
eventually I'm going to outgrow this. You see
That's
what I'm
it.
saying? It will not be beneficial for me to have this anymore. So I will have to
Yes.
change into another garment because
Yes.
I can no longer
Fit.
benefit from what you
Yes.
exactly fit this, and that's what's happened. The growth and this season of awakening, the systems of days old, we won't be able to fit it, so we've outgrown it.
Well, and not only that, the systems no longer work
Exactly.
for those of us who have expanded in our awareness. And there are others who are ready to expand that the system is suffocating. And so God is not only, you said it's God shutting churches down, it's God shutting churches down, it's God shutting governments down, it's God shutting down all kinds of institutions, businesses, all of those things that are stifling the evolution of those of us who are expanding.
Exactly. Because
See,
we can be honest, it's been no progression. We talked about this, and that's why I wish people would really look at it. I mean, just observe it. we have all these churches in one town, one city. We can have 6 churches on
Yes.
one block. We could have 4 denominations of one organization, in like we have in this town. And we got all these churches, and we all you quote unquote utilize the same Bible, supposed to be preaching the same message, but we can come together to save our lives. And that is showing you that it doesn't work. Religion does not work. It's when we live the life not in duality, but in oneness. If we all can awaken to that fact, then we can enter into that place of rest and peace where there would be no constant opposing one another, confrontation. Going back to what's the name from Denmark concerning the coin and about love. We would just literally love on one another with no judgments whatsoever.
Yes. And you know, it's kind of scary when the judgments start falling away and when you're a pastor, because pastors are taught you must have control of your people.
Oh yes.
You must keep them in line with what you believe God wants from them. And that causes a lot of pressure, not only on the people, but on the pastor to try to keep things in line and make sure it goes well and things aren't contaminated and all of this stuff. And so it's and I heard another spiritual teacher say this, said God has never been mad at us. It's the church that's been mad at us.
Exactly. God has never been angry. So, exactly what I told the young man yesterday.
So for those of us who are pastors, particularly in the evangelical circles, the last thing to die is judgment in us, because it is difficult to look at people and then say, I'm not going to mess with that. I'm not going to mess with that. When in the past you were habitually messing with that.
Exactly.
And so it's a whole different way of, like you dealt with the young man you were talking about. In the past, you would have maybe, and I don't know about you, but most pastors would have tried to encourage him to motivate himself to start praying and reading more, and instead of telling him it's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah.
See, I could take it even a little further, make it more personal to an individual. You was talking about the judgments in the church that we supposed to have the control over the people in the church and all the stuff like that. But think about what was taught to us as well as spiritual leaders within the church. If you can't handle the affairs of your home, if you can't control your spouse or control your children at home, then you're not good enough or worthy enough to even be a spiritual leader within the church. And so again, we have to remember, and a lot of pastors can testify to this. Okay, you raise your children in a system that you really, really, truly believe in, and those kids grew up and did the opposite. The opposite of what you told. Now all eyes are not on them. They the one that did whatever they did because they made the decision. Now all just like, and I'm gonna just be honest, like my daughter, she had a child out of wedlock, and so of course I told her, Shannon, keep yourself until you get married, so forth and so on. But she's grown.
Yeah.
So in a conversation, because when Shannon told me, and I'm being honest, because we are a transparent family. When Shannon told me, that thing hurt me.
Yeah.
And the first thought that came to my mind, oh, now what people gonna say about me? Not her. What people gonna say about me now? You see what I'm saying? And so when I had my moment, and then I awakened to myself, no, she's grown. She made her own decision. And so after I cried, I said, come here, let me love on you. I hugged her and I loved her. So now, because she's grown, it was up to her when she wanted to announce to other people that she was pregnant. So I'm on a conversation with someone on the phone, and about to end the phone, and they asked me how my kids doing. They asked me how Shannon doing. And right there, I knew, okay, why did she ask about her? Not all the rest of them. Because again, I got two stepdaughters as well. They didn't ask me, just that particular one, Shannon. And so I said, why you and trying to fish and find, and then the person came out with it. And then what was said to them was, oh, you ain't tell me your pastor daughter done got pregnant. Okay, what the pastor, what that got to do with it? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, it has nothing to do with it.
Nothing. Everybody must understand something. We have never been created to manipulate and control other personalities.
Right.
Everybody has the power of choice, and whatever a person chooses to do, don't judge them. Love on them. That's what Jesus did. He didn't stone the woman that committed adultery. He said, "Ye without sin cast the first stone." So, in essence, if I want to use a different terminology today, ye without sin, let them have the first word.
Right. Now, this is the thing that I've come into understanding. The first time I read this, I read it in the book called A Course in Miracles. And this is the one thing that stuck with me because I haven't been able to really study that book. But this is what stuck with me, that God is not a punishing God, that God does not seek to punish, but God looks to correct. So when I correct, if a person does something that harms themselves, God is interested in correcting that situation so they no longer do that. God is not looking at what we do so much as why we do it.
I'll tell you something. The earth said in the testimony of the universe, in the eternals, it said, when these gods, human beings, get through with their bodies, it said, I am bidden, the earth said, I am bidden for them to return back to me.
Mm.
And it said also, which one in the family is going to be the last one to put their mother or father body in the ground back to the earth. The earth said, I don't want the spirit. I want the energy.
It's claiming what is its own, right?
Yeah. So let me share this with you. My mom was beat to death.
Well, almost to death.
Almost to death. Her head was swole bigger than you could imagine. I'm standing on the front porch and a guy come down the street.
And you're how old at that time?
I was about 17, 18.
Okay.
He said, maybe longer than that, he said, they just found Tip, my mom, that's what they call her, body up there on the side of the creek bank, and she's hollering for help. The guy that she was out with at night, she run her mouth and he beat her. He meant to kill her, but the reason why
he left her for dead.
Left her for dead. And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you something about change. My brother's gone. My oldest brother, youngest brother, my sister's gone. Mm-hmm. Everybody in the family left, and this is always in every family.
Every sibling died.
Every family's got this. Sometimes, once in a while, you'll find a case where everybody gone and nobody is left to carry out any rights of claiming to be a part of the family. Now, here's what I'm saying. My mama couldn't die because she was waiting on me. I was the only one that in her that gave a problem to being born. The rest of them no problem, but I gave her hell to just come in the world. And I did that because I didn't want to come. I was pushed to come the way I did. And listen to this. You may very well be the last one in your family that has to serve the rites of passage for your mom or members of your family. She couldn't die because she was waiting for the moment of my coming. Moses didn't die physically. the earth did not have a chance to claim his dust. Elijah the prophet and many of them did not get a chance to claim his dust. But the earth said to Jesus about Lazarus, I will give him time to get back to you when I am through with him for 4 days. If things are right in 4 days, if it's not like the contract, I'll take him. But if he keeps up with the contract, I'll give him back. So the earth spit him back out through a tomb. It spit Jesus out through a tomb. It spit us out for whatever moments is need for the last moment to serve rights to somebody's passage. If a husband dies and the wife grieves, the earth is standing around like a vulture, is waiting for the body.
Well, yeah, it's
Now-
claiming it
now-
belongs to it.
Yeah. Now the earth, I had a chance to meet the earth in the council chamber. I had a chance to meet the glory cloud in the chamber. And these artifacts are gifts and beings that actually walk with Jesus and is actually in communication with your infinite self. When the sons of God are ready to admit that going home is returning to your true essence. Heaven is returning to your true essence. Hell is not going back to your essence. Hell is an essence that's standing there watching on the outside, waiting for change to take place. But if you don't willfully give back to the earth essence, will not force anything on you because it's spontaneous. You are the one out of all your family that was put here today to hear what has been said.
Yes.
The next moment you look, somebody in one of your families that listen to me now is getting ready to cross over. And that's because their contracts are
The
calling
expiration is
for
coming up.
expiration date.
And the earth is about to claim what rightfully
right.
belongs
Now,
to it.
I understand the sadness of it. I didn't want my mom to be like that, but it didn't bother me at the time when he told me that she was been found half dead. I was able to go to the hospital as a little boy upstairs and see her. I never seen anything Frankenstein. All these monsters. I never seen anything like that. Her head was so big. I don't know how in the world the brain stayed in it. But she lived determined to keep going. My mama was a prophetic word. Pastor Norman, your mama is a prophetic word to you.
My mom was a prophetic.
Your
word.
mama, my daddy.
Mm-hmm.
They
Oh,
were
God.
prophetic words to us.
This thing, when you wake up and begin to accept the fact that you are the essence of God, and that essence of God in me is the same essence in everybody all over the universe. No one really have to receive Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior in the physical realm, because in the essence realm, it is Him that receives Himself.
Yes, yes,
Exactly.
yes.
That means that everybody you see, God is in them.
Now, there are 2 comments, and then we're going to have to wrap
Yeah,
up
we got
because
a-
you
I
got
got
an
a doctor
appointment in a
appointment.
little bit. And Sinette says, I got an aha that the idea of the crucifixion was not really important, but the resurrection was to show nothing really happened.
The earth spit Him out.
Jesus was still there showing us what we are. Therefore, the idea of sin, sacrifice, does not make sense. Any thoughts on that? There's a whole lot of thoughts on that, Sinette. Whole bunch
The
of thoughts.
potter found the vessel that had been broken by the wind and the rain. He said, fix me over, start me over, and let me start again. We are the testimony of the earth and the testimony of the spirit.
Yes.
And your mama and your daddies may be gone. And the reason why you're here is because you are a word of God
Yes.
manifested at the end of destiny for a lot of people.
Now-
You can walk up in a few minutes, and if you look at a person you see next, you can just about tell when they get ready to leave.
True.
Oh,
Now,
that's-
Keely's got a question, and we
That's
got
funny.
quick as we can. She said, "What do you mean willfully give back to them?"
But I was getting ready to make a comment,
Go ahead, make your comment.
and it's funny that question came up because as Dad was talking, this is what I heard, that the earth is waiting for us to stop being human.
Oh,
That's what I heard. The
different.
earth is waiting
See
for us to
yourself
stop
different.
being human, because if you look at the word, which these words are adjectives which describe, we always talk about being human. Okay, so well, I'm a human being. That means to be human.
You are being.
Well, if
yes.
we understand God Himself breathing into the first man that He created, or body that He created from the dust of the earth, He breathed into it Himself. So God started being human. So earth is waiting for God to stop being human, so
That's
that
good.
what He took from the earth can come back to the earth, and we can start being God again.
Yes, 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 yes.
Now.
So no longer human beings, but God beings.
God beings. Yes.
Now, the earth.
That's good.
The earth is under contract, and it knows that the minute one of us accept true essence of who we are as an eternal being,
Mm-hmm.
the earth backs off,
Mm-hmm.
and it cannot hold us prey to anything that it has a claim on. If we find out what our contracts are before we left,
Wow.
if the earth is reaching a hand out to take us, it'll stop.
That's right.
Because
so
you have to find out who you really are versus
you
who
just
you're not.
answered why some cross over and are sent back.
Well,
God don't. The earth don't. The earth. It'll take a chance on you crossing over in ignorance.
well, I'm gonna have some preachers to be upset with me, because I just had this come to me as well. And we have to understand translation. The King James version, which was the translation was back in 1611.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
We need to understand this. We always say to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. To be absent from the body is to be the Lord.
There you go.
You
and then it also says while we're at home in the body.
Exactly.
So we're not supposed to be at home in the body.
Exactly.
The body is not our home.
Okay. Here's the revelation of being home in the body. Anywhere where essence is home.
Because essence
in the body, out of the body.
Because essence is home.
Essence is heaven. It's home. And it can be hell too when you don't want to find out who you are.
Yes, it can.
Now I know why Paul, when he said he didn't know if he was in the body or out of the body, only God knows.
Yeah.
Yes.
He heard some things that he could not legally say.
Mm-hmm.
I now understand what he was not allowed to say.
Mm-hmm.
There is a
Not allowed to
baptism.
reveal.
There is
look, wait a minute. You guys just started to preach. And you got to stop because you got an appointment that you got to make in about 15 minutes. But
essence is the baptism of wisdom when one finds out that he is the true essence. When I get ready to grow fingernails, I don't have to push it. I'm doing it in my essence.
It's just doing it.
We're going to do it.
No thought.
We're going to do it.
We're going to do it.
Don't you start. Don't you start that.
I didn't mean that slipped
Don't
out,
you
bro.
start that body talk. That body talk.
And she said, we're going to do it. Hot dog.
Don't start the body talk. Don't start the body talk. Oh, we gotta go, you guys. We gotta go. But we'll be back next Thursday.
She said, we're going to do it.
Stop. We'll be back next Thursday. Hold your horses. He's popping.
He popping
yeah, he's popping. But we'll be back next Thursday, and probably it'll be at the same time, 12:30. We switched our time because Pastor's got all these different appointments he's taking for his back. And we just love coming together and talking, and you guys tuning into us is just magnificent. We enjoy you so much.
We love you too.
Yeah.
We love you too. We love you. We love you.
Right. I love to hear you laugh.
Hey, hold tight, Buddha Raka Shaka, my mama used to say.
That's bad.
You know, that's the old saying they said back in the 30s and 20s, hold tight, Buddha Raka Shaka.
Yeah. But we all will be back. Pastor Norman, of course, will be back at 11 on Sunday, and we'll be back at 10 on Sunday. And we'll look forward to seeing you again next week for this impromptu.
We're going to have to talk to
Yes.
you and your husband in a minute, Keely. You watch out.
Sinette, we love you, sweetheart. I'm glad you're doing
all
well.
You guys,
Love
we
y'all.
bless you, and we command that your eyes be open and the veil be lifted up, where you can see those that are among you, that are for you, and see the angels, those that have wings and those that don't. May your eyes be open to see the earth angels that have been with you from day one.
Amen.
God,
Amen. Keely says she can't wait. We can't wait either. We'll see you guys. We're signing off. Bye.
bye-bye.